awaken to reason. Will you open your eyes? It's a wonder what you'll find with an open mind. You may be surprised. Yeah, gotta get away from this illusion for the sake of the world. This delusion, it's gotta go. Yeah.
Oh, hi, atheists. This is the Atheist Experience. With me today is Jeff D.
Hi, everybody. It's going to be a silly show today. Everybody in the
Yes,
studio
really.
is in a silly mood.
And that silly day happens to be Sunday, September 16th, and we are, as always, a live call-in public access television show based in Austin, Texas, dedicated to promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. You can catch us locally on TV if you're in Austin, or you can see us on ustream.tv, or if you missed the show, then you can see it again on... crap, I got out of order. Shit. The website is atheist-experience.com, and you can also provide feedback on the usual open threads that are created at freethoughtblogs.com/axp, and you can email us at tv@atheist-community.org. So we've got all kinds of web stuff, including The Nonprofits, a weekly podcast that has not been on for a month, and Godless Bitches, which was on recently, and it was a great live show that you should totally see because it was in front of an audience at a convention, or listen to. And this week we are going to have dinner after the show at Threadgill's, and it might stay Threadgill's for a really long time. So wipe El Arroyo from your memory for now, unless you want to go back and patronize them in appreciation for all the many years of service they've given us. Oh, and the Bat Cruise, it's next week. You better get a ticket now. It's not quite too late, but hurry up.
If you feel like it.
If you feel like it. Because we're not telling you to get a ticket. We're just saying I'm going to be there and it's fun. And Jeff, are you going to be there?
I'm not going to be there.
Okay, Jeff's not going to be there, so don't bother.
I've seen him.
Don't come.
No. It's better when I'm not there.
Yeah, no.
I ruined everything in that time I was there.
People come there. It's like unofficially titled the Jeff D. Cruise. And so...
I knew this was going to be a silly
Yeah,
show.
so anyway, dinner after the show, I repeat, is at Threadgill's, and it's on Riverside Drive. And let's see, before the Bat Cruise, there's going to be a lecture by Teresa McBain, who is a graduate of the Clergy Project, and that's it. What are we talking about today? Anything? Are we just going straight to callers?
Let's go to callers.
We're going straight to callers.
They know
Who the
what's
heck
going
is
on
this?
out there in the world.
Yeah. They have the internet, but they don't have Ian in South Boston, Virginia. But we do.
Ian, you there?
Don't we?
I'm here.
What's going on out there in the world, Ian?
College.
Okay.
That's about it.
Is that what you're calling about?
No.
Is that what What are you calling about, Ian?
Currently biochemistry, although I'm thinking of switching to biology.
That's what you're calling the show about?
No.
Okay, let's get to that.
Got it. I think I heard something wrong. Anyhow, the question that I have is, if religion is false and a complete illusion, then why does it matter if it's there or if it's not there?
Because the practical effects of people believing in religion affect lots of people. I mean, people do things like try to pass laws based on religions. People do things like screw up their kids by scaring them about hell. I mean, there's actual practical, measurable effects that religion has, regardless of whether the things they believe are true.
All right, that kind of makes sense. But in the same capacity, then, if it does have those effects, then how would you, again, why then would it even matter? Why would it matter then if a kid is screwed up? Or if someone does
so your position is that it's perfectly okay if people screw up their kids?
Oh, hell no. No.
Okay, so that's why, that there is why it matters. Because that's not cool. That's why.
Got it. Okay.
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 That was it?
All right. And also, I mean, I'd just like to mention, religion doesn't always screw things up.
Certainly
generally,
not.
we think, live and let live, as long as they're not screwing things up. But if they are, then we have a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for calling.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks for the explanation.
Okay. Matthew in North Lake, Texas.
Am I on?
Yes.
Awesome. What's up, guys?
Dude.
We were going to ask you.
Oh my God.
Who?
Oh, sorry. I was talking to God. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, put him on. We'll talk to him.
I was going to ask, what do you guys think about atheism in terms of like spirituality? Like, are they compatible? I mean, like secular spirituality or whatever.
I don't know what spirituality means.
Okay, yeah, I guess I should probably go into that. Like, okay, so like when I say spirituality, I guess and it could, maybe it's not like the, maybe not other people believe this is what spirituality is, but spirituality meaning like my relationship with the world around me, or like the people around me, or just like reality in general, that kind of thing.
Well, then my reaction to that is I don't see how atheism can prevent you from having a relationship to other people in the world around you.
Right. Okay. That makes that makes sense. But I mean, like, I guess, man, it's kind of hard to.
There are some religions that will do that.
I guess I'm just getting into like some vaguely weird bullshit that nobody's ever gonna believe in. No, excuse me. I guess like it would have to do with like the forces that we don't quite understand, but we know are there, that like we don't see, we don't experience on a daily basis.
Like what?
I mean, I hate to try to put science into this, but like dark energy, for instance, we know that there's something out there that's causing, things to happen, but we don't quite understand it.
Yeah.
And I guess like that could point to a higher transcendental like reality,
No.
that we don't
Not really.
No.
know about,
Things we don't know about don't point to anything. Things we don't know about remain just big question marks until we know what it is that they are. Then you can form an opinion on that. I think if you form an opinion about a thing you don't know before you know anything about it, then that's generally a mistake.
Right. I mean, generally, the idea of investigating scientifically is to find out what's true. And if you don't know a thing, then you're not justified in just making up an answer that you want to be true. I mean, you can do that, but then you don't really have any ground to stand on telling somebody else that it's true. So if you want to talk about a higher transcendental reality, you'd have to explain what does that mean and how do you know it's there. And if you don't know it's there, then whatever.
Because there could be some other explanation for dark energy or dark matter.
There's almost, if you don't know enough about a thing to know for sure what it is and what it's all about, there's almost certainly a different explanation than the one you make up.
Right. Okay. Well, I guess like maybe I don't want to say relationship, but like the way you go about talking about that mystery, like that is kind of like it kind of relates back to like language, how we relate to the world and how we relate to each other, but like just spirituality being how I would go about thinking about a mystery or thinking about something that I don't quite understand, that kind of it's hard for me to describe, man.
Well, when you run into a mystery, I mean, what's your purpose in deciding how you think about it? I mean, would you like to solve that mystery, or would you just want to say, like, whoa, that's mysterious and cool?
I say, screw it, man. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I would love to, understand it, and I mean,
Right.
Well,
try to.
if you want to understand it, then the thing you have to do is think about ways that it could be, but then that's not the last step. You think about ways that it could be, but then you ask yourself, all right, if it was this way, how would I know the difference between that and it being another way? How could I test this thing this way that I think it is? And if you can't come up with a way to test it, then you can't really practically tell the difference between that and another way.
Right.
There are a bunch of different definitions that people mean when they talk about spirituality, and some of them I think are just fine. To cut to the chase, the one that I think is what I mean when I say is it's just fine is I don't mind if people do that. I don't think that they're making a huge mistake, right? Though I don't personally like the term spirituality because I think it's got a bunch of baggage and it's not clear which of these various definitions people are talking about. And so, you could get into a conversation and say, oh, yes, spirituality is such a fine thing, and then everybody else in the conversation who thinks it's something different from you gets a different impression of what you're condoning. The version of it that I think is fine is simply, if you have a excited, fascinated, positive reaction to neat stuff that you find in the world around you or in people or things like that, if that's what you mean by a relationship, if you mean a positive reaction and enjoyment of the world around you, some people call that spirituality. I think that's a fine thing as long as you don't go crazy and have a positive reaction to stuff that's actually bad.
Yeah.
Right,
well, man, you
because
gotta see the light at the end of the tunnel, I'm just, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and that's what I mean, like more of like a method of thinking about the world rather than like for instance, like I guess I'm talking more like a Zen kind of aspect where it's like everyday things that you do, the rituals that we do during the day that keeps alive kind of are like the rituals that you would kind of relate to in like a religious aspect, but not a religious aspect. Like it's just personal.
No.
We all go through.
That's not the kind that I would be comfortable with. The sort of thing I was talking about is not a method. It's just an attitude.
Okay.
Just a positive attitude, which I think is a better word for it, or a better term for it, right?
Right.
Having a positive attitude is a fine thing. You really can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Because being an atheist doesn't mean that you can't find things cool and be excited by, oh, wow, look, a rainbow, a sunset.
Right. When people start encrusting that with, traditions and rituals and observances and things like that, I start thinking, wow, you're kind of getting away from just having a positive attitude and starting to impose some meaning onto that is not necessarily deserved.
Right, because that's heading into superstition. That's like, oh, if I do something like a rain dance, then it will affect the universe in some way and I can make stuff happen. And, believing things that is not true can wind up having harmful effects.
Like we told the last guy.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I thought about it in a way that was like, we don't all have to follow the same path, that kind of thing. But like, I guess I'm speaking to broad and poetically here whenever I'm talking about this, should have prepared a few more questions rather than gone off on this crazy.
That's all right, man. We'll be here next week, or somebody will.
Can I recommend a book to you real quick?
What's up?
Unweaving the Rainbow by Richard Dawkins is pretty good. I mean, it's about all the stuff that seems interesting and magical, and he talks about how you can analyze them with science, and they can still be sort of exciting and magical, but now you've got that extra element of understanding how they work, which in some ways makes them even more exciting.
Okay.
Unweaving the Rainbow.
Yeah. I was kind of basing a lot of not a lot of stuff, but like a few things of what I was saying on a reading that I did of the Tao Te Ching, but I'll look up what you said. But like the Tao being like the way that we can kind of hint at, describe, but not really like say what exactly it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay. Well, that's all I had. So.
All right. Thanks.
Good luck with the Atheist Show.
Thank you. Good luck with finding things out.
Peace out, yo.
Yo. David in Houston.
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi.
Hi, David.
I must say that I greatly appreciate your show. I have a quick question. After the question, I'll merely hang up and listen to your reply. The one issue that I've never been able quite to comprehend, at least within the realm of Christianity, is this correlation between eternal absolution of sin due to or as a result of the crucifixion. In practically every evangelical sermon or comment, the words, you've been granted everlasting life because Jesus died on the cross for your sins, you hear that consistently. And I've never really understood the relationship between them. In other words, how did God dying on the cross, Jesus dying on the cross, automatically generate eternal absolution? Why didn't he walk 1,000 miles or eat an enormous meal or perhaps climb to the highest mountain, which also could have granted us everlasting life? Though I do not believe the stories are true, there are many topics and stories in the Bible that have a natural, logical progression. But I've never been able to understand the relevance between the cross, the death, and then therefore we are forgiven as a result of.
Okay. He said he was going to hang up. Okay. It's always tricky when we're asked to explain things about Christianity because there's so many different flavors, and there's always the risk that whatever we say is going to not be precisely correct for this or that subgroup. But in general, the idea with Jesus' death is that they had in their culture animal sacrifice to ask for gifts or favors or forgiveness from the god. And the whole idea of Jesus was that he was supposed to be such a superb sacrifice to God, such an absolutely, this is the finest thing you could ever kill it off and dedicate it to God, that's the last time that ever had to happen. That was the idea. And now it's like, it's so awesome that people who weren't even there, who weren't even part of stringing them up, can just reference that and get the benefit of how great that sacrifice was. Is that about right?
Sure.
As you understand it?
I mean, I guess that's one way somebody would put it. I feel like if you have a question for a Christian, you ought to call a show like the Bible Answer Man or something.
Though you're only, from a guy like that, you're only going to get the answer that's his interpretation of it.
Yeah, but if you want to know how does that make sense to Christians, then you should ask a Christian. And it still might not wind up making sense to you, but that doesn't mean that there's a deeper sense that you're missing.
Right.
It might just mean
often it just boils down to
sense.
it's God and magic, and therefore, as long as he said that's what it was, then that worked.
Yeah.
Okay, well, he's gone,
right.
So we don't have to wait for a response.
Ed in, which one is MS? Jackson.
Missouri, I believe?
Jackson.
Hi.
Hello there.
Mississippi?
Hi.
No, that's
Hi.
MI. Hi. It's
Hello.
you, Ed.
Yeah, you're on, Ed.
What state are you in?
Okay. Hi.
Yeah, hi.
So, radiometric dating, I was calling in about that to say it doesn't work, And that's why I suppose that the Earth must be young because, there's more evidence for that,
No.
Yes.
No.
I believe you're wrong. You're wrong now. I can give you an example if you like.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
You said radiometric dating is wrong, and that proves that the Earth is young. How?
No, I got evidence. If you could listen to me instead of hanging up the phone in my ear.
Well, that depends on how this call goes. So, go ahead. See, now, I have a question for you. When you say radiometric dating is not, how do you phrase it? It doesn't work? Is that how you would put it?
Well, it works to a certain degree, but it
works a certain degree. So what you are saying is that it's not perfect. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and can totally.
Okay, I agree that radiometric dating isn't perfect.
Good,
but you're aware, of course, that scientists use a number of different dating methods, none of which is perfect. None of which is perfect. And they look for correlations, because the more correlations they can draw, the stronger the evidence is that the correlated findings are accurate.
Oh, yeah.
So you could give us, if what you want to do, you were offering to give us an example of radiometric dating not working, right? Well, you could give us an example, and it's not going to establish your point, because we concede that radiometric dating itself is not perfect. There can be instances of it going wrong, but it is not like all of the scientific understanding of the age of the Earth is based solely on radiometric dating alone, right?
I want to hear the evidence.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but I gotta. There's a few. I don't know which one to choose, because I'm reading here from Kent Hovind's creation seminar, and I'm
boy,
that's your first mistake.
Hold on. And so Kent Hovind is an established expert on science. Is that correct?
Yeah.
He's not.
PhD in science. Yes. No.
Okay.
No.
You go ahead and read your evidence.
Wait.
Go ahead.
PhD.
Do you know where he got his PhD from? Was it an accredited university?
Let me. Okay, listen. Hovind taught.
It was a mail-order degree from some guy's house, dude.
I got that
fine.
in detail. Let him do his evidence.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Do you want the evidence or what?
Yeah, go ahead.
The moon is receding 10 centimeters per year, and if the Earth is over 1.3 billion years old, then 1.3 billion years old, ago, then the moon would be at the surface of the Earth. If we go by the standards of the at which point it is receding, so
yeah,
it's possible that it's so old, and also.
No. You asked to give us a piece of evidence. That is a piece of evidence, right? You done with that one? Well, we want to respond before you move on to another one.
Relax.
We want to respond before you move on to another one. Okay?
I'm not going to do that.
Okay, go ahead.
Warning you now, because I know what you're going to do. I know what you.
I don't think you do. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, please. Now, when you try to refute this, you must use evidence and not faith. Okay? Your faith in
no problem.
Evolution and
No.
Stephen Hawking's physical. What's it called? Abiogenesis explanation and all that. You can't go by that. You got to bring in evidence.
I got evidence right here. Okay, you ready?
I don't think so.
You ready? You thought okay. Kent Hovind claims to possess a master's degree and a doctorate in education from Patriot University in Colorado. According to Mr. Hovind, his 250-page dissertation was on the topic of the dangers of teaching evolution in public schools. Formerly affiliated with Hilltop Baptist Church in Colorado Springs, Colorado, Patriot University is accredited only by the American Accrediting Association of Theological Institutions, an accreditation mill that provides accreditation for a $100 fee. Patriot University has moved to Alamoso, Colorado, and continues to offer correspondence courses for $15 to $32 per credit. The school's catalog contains course descriptions, but no listing of the school's facilities or their credentials. Name It and Frame It lists Patriot University as a degree mill.
So how?
So it does not matter. It does not matter what claims you read to us from Kent Hovind's book. Your assertion that he is an expert on these scientific questions is false. And we are going to go with the findings of actual scientists over what some guy who got his degree out of a cereal box
very
says.
condescending.
Yes, we are.
Good reason.
This guy's an idiot.
Okay, now how fast?
I'm sorry, if that's the best you've got, we're done. Go ahead, Russell.
How fast do you think the moon is receding from the Earth?
I got to look up the exact number, but it was at least over 5 centimeters.
How much?
I got to look it up again, but I can't remember exactly, but it's over 5 centimeters
No,
per
it's
year.
3.8 centimeters. And do you know how many centimeters it is from Earth?
I'm reading this off
Kent Hovind's site, right.
No. I'm not doing that. I'm using evidence now.
Okay, what are you reading off?
Russell's got the response right here. You want to hear what Russell's information is to respond to that while you look?
Okay.
The moon is receding at about 3.8 centimeters a year.
I read this on science.org, by the way, so yeah.
Right, and it's about 3.85 times 10 to the 10 centimeters from the Earth now, which is consistent within an order of magnitude with an Earth-Moon system that's billions of years old.
Yes, but you gotta take into consideration on which the speed of the Earth is moving as well, and how it rotates, because that's also got impact.
Because Kent Hovind, with his degree out of a cereal box, knows enough science to be able to write a book that you will read and just swallow hook, line, and sinker. And scientists whose actual job it is to pay attention to stuff like this have not noticed this brilliant thing that Kent Hovind, right, the cereal box specialist, has figured out.
And Ray Comfort.
And Ray Comfort, another genius of science. Let me look him up.
And Eric Hovind.
Eric Hovind,
who's going to say what Kent Hovind says. Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anything else to talk about with this guy?
I don't think so.
Okay. This will be fun looking up if
Are
he's
you still?
in here. No, move on.
I don't think Ray Comfort even says he has a
I don't think I have
degree.
him. No, I don't have him.
Yeah, okay. So, Eric in Evansville, Indiana.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Oh, are you there?
Yes, we're here.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be on. Great. Okay, so I'm dealing with some self-prescribed cognitive dissonance. I am a recent atheist, or just started my atheist life, you could say. And I used to be a student of A Course in Miracles, and I wanted to see first if you guys are familiar with that text, and if you can help me with some refuting, and if you can help me with some...
I've heard of it, but I can't give any kind of blanket response to it. Can you tell me some specific things they think?
Yeah, it's supposed to be non-dualistic in its, framework, if you want to say, and that's sort of where my questions come into play. Is the logic and the thought processes of non-dualism, and how I can sort of get rid of that now that I've...
Can you give us a concrete example of what you're talking about?
Okay, so the whole premise is that if the concept of infinity is all-encompassing, everything, formlessness, spacelessness, timelessness, then nothing else could exist. So that all life, the world, everything else is an illusion, because it would be defined by space-time limit and structure.
I don't think that's quite right about infinity. I mean, there's a lot of different meanings of infinity even within math. Like an infinite length line could be something that goes on forever, but there's also this concept that like a regular sized line has an infinite number of points inside it. And that's obviously not all encompassing. It just means that it's uncountable. You see what I mean?
And I agree with that. I think this definition, it's just a different definition given to the term.
Right, but you have to be really careful.
I'm fine with that definition. It's really dealing with this other definition of infinity and how I can sort of deal with that.
Well, can you tell us, I don't think maybe we're not understanding the definition you're trying to give us. Can you just tell us how that definition causes problems for atheism?
Oh, well, I'm not saying atheism. I'm more of my own personal judgment. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. It's just trying to make sense of it. And I've sort of made sense of it mainly because it's sort of a non-cognitive argument. Like, I don't really think it matters or it makes sense, because if there's formlessness and spacelessness and timelessness, then it doesn't really matter how my life would have to deal with it, because I can just continue to live a peaceful and kind life towards others. But that's still this nagging thing in the back of my consciousness that I want to try to get some reconciliation or to jettison it completely. Because
boy, I still can't claim to completely understand what the issue is, but when you say formless, if somebody tried to tell me that the universe is formless, spaceless, and timeless?
No.
Okay, what's formless, spaceless, and timeless then?
Well,
what is that being applied to?
The book talks about how this concept of God or infinity would be complete spacelessness, timelessness, and the entire universe would be an illusion.
Well, there's
for a few years, and now is what I'm trying to get rid of.
Formlessness I got no problem with, because there's all kinds of things that don't have a form. Like an amoeba hasn't got a form in a certain sense, right? A pile of various random things doesn't have a set form. That's no big deal. Spacelessness is more of an issue because stuff that exists tends to occupy some space, unless it's ridiculously simple, like an abstract point. Then it doesn't occupy any space, but it's hard to see how that could be a god. And timelessness is a problem because stuff, when you talk about decisions being made or actions being taken or stuff being done, that happens in time. So a thing that is timeless either is omnipresent, right? In which case it sounds like then they're talking about the kind of thing that doesn't ever change and always just exists. Well, a thing that doesn't change doesn't do anything either. Or it really doesn't do anything because no time passes for it, and neither of those things can be a god either. Is that making any sense?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, it's really hard to explain what I'm trying to say. I'm not thinking of infinity or even something like the concept of God as a person or a being or an entity or a thing. I'm sorry, it's just hard to explain. I think this is more of a logical argument. I think. Sorry.
Eric, if you don't mind me saying so, a lot of times these things are hard to explain because they're really just convincing sounding, pseudo-philosophical, intellectual sounding stuff.
Deepities.
So, yeah, that's a good word.
Are you familiar with that? Deepity?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if you've been on the line the whole time, but we asked the first guy to sort of define what he meant by spiritual, and it was hard to nail something down, and that's our experience in general, is that people have this vague idea that there's something called spiritual and it's really neat, but they don't even understand what they mean by it.
Yeah, and I mean, what I consider spiritual now is just a neurologic experience, but that's, I mean, when I consider, it's really hard to explain. I think what my biggest cognitive dissonance right now is just getting rid of the old attachments that I've had with this form of spirituality, or if you want to call it that, pseudo-religion, and just dealing with this new thought process that I have, and with this newfound skill of critical thinking.
Right.
And I'm just running into a lot of sort of, I don't know, my old ego is bumping against it, and I'm finding it hard to...
Well, your new ego might have some fun reacting to these, deep-sounding but kind of vacuous, empty concepts.
Well said.
By going, hey, until you can make that something that I can understand, I'm just going to blow it off because it's not worth my time.
And I hate to go all Taoist on you, but if you think of this in terms of sort of this mystical Eastern religious stuff, one thing I would say is, why are you trying so hard to let this stuff go? When you stop trying, it will leave you. I think that's what a Zen master would say. I would say don't spend a lot of time worrying about it. Just examine the world with sort of a new angle on things, and then maybe you will eventually find that you don't need that stuff anymore.
Thank you, Master Ethel.
It was nothing. I do not speak, the Tao speaks through me.
Well, that's great, and I think that was really well said, and I think that's probably the biggest thing is the more I sort of just get fixated on it or think about it, the more I'm just dwelling on
See, you're just fobbing him off on another deepity.
I'm sorry.
Well, hey,
My shoe fits.
That's all I got.
You'll be okay, Eric. Just, relax. Don't take stuff that people can't explain too seriously.
Well said. Hey, I really appreciate you guys. You guys have really been a pivotal part of my life right now, so keep it up.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Hang in there, man.
All right, thanks. Take care.
You too.
Another Eric in Peoria.
Hey.
Hi.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. The people in the comments or the chat room are probably really annoyed that I'm the second caller who isn't the Eric that they're freaking out about.
Don't listen to them.
Yeah. I was having an argument with someone about being. I'm a materialist in the sense that we can't determine that there's anything else besides the world, the physical world around us. So, what is that called? Not philosophical materialism, but you get the point.
Sure.
And then they argued that from that point of view, there's no free will. My response to them, I'm not sure whether it was a good one, but it's basically that you are basically your genetics and the things that have happened to you throughout your life. Is that approximately correct? Do you agree?
I think so. So
right,
I think Russell is sitting back here because I'm the guy with the reputation for being the compatibilist,
right?
Which is Daniel Dennett's view on free will. I subscribe to that. But what it takes is the willingness to have a different definition of free will than most people have come to expect. Okay.
Yeah, like
for a
if
long
we go
time,
back in time and re-go through the thing, you will
for a
always
long
do it.
time, religion dominated the discussion about free will. And so free will arguments always came down to, well, you need to have this magical immaterial soul that isn't acted on by any outside forces, and it's what makes your decisions for you, right? Or it is you, in that kind of sense. And that's how you can get away from the problem of free will. The way that compatibilism deals with determinism and still comes out with free will is we reject a wide range of ways that we are influenced by the outside world as really not relevant to anything about free will that we actually have any reason to care about.
All right.
Right.
Yeah.
Those guys were saying every action you take is the direct consequence of a series of cause and effect things going back to the dawn of time.
Well, that's
right?
basically what I was saying. That is compatible with free will, is what I was saying.
I do too, but they say it's not. They are right in that the outcome is. If you were able to run an exact model of the universe, chances are, when it got to this point and it's made a you, that you would do the same stuff you are doing. Okay?
Yeah.
But compatibilists say, who cares, right? You are that guy that's doing that stuff.
There's no reason to incorporate a metaphysical, crazy other you. Yeah, I don't know.
I would argue that a lot of versions of religion are actually incompatible with free will.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
You know, Calvinists are at least honest about it and say it doesn't matter what you do, you're already pre-selected to go to heaven or hell. But, you know, a lot of people also believe in a God who knows who knows everything, including everything that you'll do at every minute of every day. So just coming up with a God doesn't fix the problem, assuming there is a problem to begin with.
Yeah. An immaterial, magical soul that's independent of cause and effect could give you a kind of free will where these questions about how you're influenced by other things in the world around you in your past, right? It could deal with all those questions and how they relate to free will, but so can simply defining, you know, when you say, do you have free will, defining you as you, right? What you are. And then asking, well, is that bundle that we're calling you able to do what you want?
Yeah, so it really comes down to what you are, not whether or not you have free will.
That's how us compatibilists see it, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a book to recommend? What's your favorite?
The finest book on this ever written, I think, is Dan Dennett's book, Elbow Room, Varieties of Free Will Worth Wanting. He touched on it. Elbow Room, but it's hard to find. It's like a little silver-covered booklet that was a speech that he gave that's turned into book form. That's hard to find. He's done another book on it that I'm aware of, probably more than one, but the other one I'm aware of is called Freedom Evolves, but I didn't care for it as much. I thought it read like, you know, he's flabbergasted that 20 years after he wrote Elbow Room, or however long it's been, people are still giving him a hard time about compatibilism.
Okay.
So, Elbow Room is what you should try to get.
But the other one's easier to find, huh?
The other one's easier to find.
Okay.
Also, one little other thing that's kind of random. Also, I also think that any atheist out there who's in a position which they can come out as an atheist should, because it will help to get rid of social stigmas against us.
I'm with you.
I agree that would be a benefit of coming out, but I don't think that itself should dictate what a person's individual choice is. They should factor that in.
All right.
Some people are just not in a position where they can do that and still have a happy life.
Yeah,
and that is the reason why the rest of us who already are out should keep fighting to make the world safe for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Russell.
Bye.
Bye.
Who was that? Eric. Thanks, Eric.
See you.
Yep.
A word about being worried about the chat room saying next caller.
Yeah.
We've had rules in the chat room for a while, but I don't know if we've ever mentioned this specifically on the show. You know, people hate having rules now and having moderators, but it really has cleaned up the chat room a lot. And since I moderate on the weeks when I'm not sitting here, the number one thing that gets people kicked out, in case you guys in the chat room weren't aware, we're typing next caller repeatedly in the chat room. You know why? Because we're not reading the chat room during the show, so we won't get your message. It won't help speed things up, and it will just fill the chat room with a bunch of annoying messages that are not productive. So just so you know, if you got kicked out and you don't know why, that might be the reason.
Whew, smackdown from Russell.
Joseph in the UK.
Oh, hi, Russell. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Joseph.
Hi, Joseph.
Just a couple of points. First of all, I mean, I know you're the atheist experience, but it seems to me that, I mean, personally, I'm an agnostic, but it seems to me that neither atheists nor religious believers can know whether or not God exists. So in that sense, we at best can all be agnostics rather than either atheist or believer.
We can explain the difference here, okay? As we think that the term atheism and the term theism are opposites. You either believe in a God or you don't. You're either a theist or you're not a theist, and then somebody who's not a theist is an atheist. And the words agnostic and Gnostic are opposites, and those are statements about not whether you believe, but whether you claim to know whether a God exists. Okay? Many atheists are quite willing to, atheists who understand the terms by the definitions I just described, are more than happy to admit that they do not know whether gods described in various ways exist or not. All they are saying is that they do not believe any of those things. Does that make it clearer?
Yeah, sort of don't believe in the belief process.
So by our definition, I'm guessing you don't believe? If cornered, would you say you do believe, or would you say you don't believe, even if it's only you don't believe yet?
I think I'm a very similar background to you, Jeff. I was brought from a very religious background, but I was Presbyterian, actually. I think you're Methodist. But the time I got to about 21 or 22, I started to ask other questions. And it seems to me that whilst we could debate all night about whether God exists or not, there's two things which I think are very clear, that there's a different debate as to whether or not we should have such a thing as religion, because I agree with you heartily that the effect of whether there's a God or not is played out in religions, and there's where the danger lies.
Well, that may be, but I still want to see if we have come to some kind of understanding on the terminology, right? I'm not asking you to adopt our terminology. I'm asking whether my explanation of the way we understand those terms makes our position more clear to you.
Yes, I think it does, Jeff.
Okay.
I think I understand from what you said, so thank you for that. The other point I want to make is a broader one, and it may have been made before, so forgive me if it has been. We all know that there's a basic law of physics and law of conservation, that mass and energy indeed cannot be created or destroyed. And I understand that's still a fundamental principle of physics. Therefore, in a situation where we do obviously all patently exist, and therefore, setting aside whether there's a God or not, because that, I think, complicates the issue, there must be some process beyond even the laws of physics whereby creation had a role to play, otherwise, patently, we wouldn't be here.
Well, there's two possibilities that we can't really rule out, which is that either the matter that exists today it always existed,
or whatever
something
it's made
else
always existed, yeah.
it. But none of that really points to the idea of intelligence or a God or anything like that.
And what's the other one? You said there were two possibilities.
Well, I mean,
either it always existed, or
it is generated from elsewhere. I mean, like a metaverse is an example of an alternative hypothesis, that there is another universe that spits off pieces into existing universes.
And I'm aware of a third one.
Yes.
Which is that the total energy of the universe is in fact zero.
Right. That I forgot.
So there's no problem with matter having come from somewhere. Matter is just the other side of the coin from antimatter, and energy is just the other side of the coin from anti-energy. And there's equal amounts of both, and so it adds up to nothing.
Right. Yeah. So you and I are effectively nothing at the end of it all.
Sure, but a lot of things are nothing at the end. It's when we're here right now is the fun part.
Yeah, and I mean, you and I aren't
universe somewhere.
You and I aren't nothing. I mean, we're like a bump in space-time. I mean,
now we're not.
If you have a plus 100 over here and a minus 100 over here, then you put them together and they make zero. But that doesn't mean that the 100 is zero. Right?
Yeah, I understand that. There's 2 points I'd like to answer on that. First of all, I think this thing about, matter and antimatter, I think you're sort of bordering perhaps on the Lawrence Krauss theory of saying that the universe is nothing.
Yes.
Well, it seems to me, I've looked at a lot of his videos, and it seems to me that what he's saying is we go back and back and back, and as we break down particles further and further and further, we start getting down to almost fundamental energy, which itself approaches almost string theory, which is this rather nebulous theory that the whole thing is all put together, these little strings that whether they interact or not to produce matter is a matter just of luck or otherwise. But to get back to the issue of creation, where if we're to assume that a creative process, even if it's to create the strings themselves, I have great difficulty in understanding the concept of nothing. Maybe this is part of the mortal mind, I don't know. But it seems to me that the fact that we exist, if you say creation, I think, Russell, you said about you can go back to other universes and so on and so forth. You can go back as far as you want, you can keep stretching it out. But you still get to the situation where there must be something that's actually created it from, as it were, truly
not
nothing.
Necessarily. Not if one of the...
Which is a very handy balance to...
No, not if one of the universes just always existed.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying to you, that the concept of always existed, yes, I mean, obviously you can say it always did exist, but equally well, if we're looking at a creation process whereby, it always goes back forever and ever, and it may very well be the case.
So...
But I'm saying that I'm more difficult with the fundamental of energy, that it's just there forever and ever and ever, rather than have to actually be created at a certain point. I'm not referring to a God here. I'm not referring to a God. I'm talking about a creative process.
So you have more trouble with some kind of energy just being inherent and eternal in the universe than you have with a somewhat more complicated notion that there's a creative process that existed even though it didn't have any basis in some eternal energy.
Well, I just
because I think you're maybe having an easier time with the idea of a creative process because it's something you can understand how that would work, where it's less obvious how just something much more generic and simplistic like some energy gets to where we are. But I think the creative process you're looking for may well be the playing out of the inherent characteristics of whatever this eternal non-created energy is. And I'm being completely speculative here, right? I mean, when Lawrence Krauss, and it's not just him, I mean, his name is attached to it, but it's not like he made it up and he's the only guy talking about it. When they talk about the universe, the positive and negative energy of the universe adding up to nothing, they are saying that therefore it is the interaction of those particles that leads after generation after generation after generation of more and more and more complex interactions. That is what leads to us. That is the process you're looking for, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I suppose I've just difficulty contemplating a complete void, even if it is put in terms of, this cosmic physics, whereby they talk about dark matter and energy and so on.
Right.
It just seems to me difficult. I can understand digging a hole to make a hill, because the hill's the matter and the hole's the dark matter. There's a negative aspect to
now just
matter.
Now just add to that, right? You got a hole and you got a pile of dirt, right? And it adds up to zero. And now understand that space in the hole and the matter of that pile have very simple physical characteristics that can interact. And then they do interact over and over and over and over and over again. And it doesn't remain a hole in a pile. It starts clumping together and interacting, and things orbiting each other, and things condensing into big piles of mass that ignite and become suns, and we're off to the races.
So effectively, so effectively, you're saying that from your perspective, that you feel that it's easier to just accept that it's always been there, so to speak, rather than to think about the initial process.
I don't know, but I think that if you say that there's a process, that process requires something to work on anyway. I'm just saying, I think the process you're looking for is an emergent property of the much simpler stuff, right? And you don't just go back to a process, and the process makes the stuff.
Well, there's a fundamental difficulty there anyhow, because I think we're always dealing within our own brains or what we're capable of actually knowing or imagining, and it may very well be, and it probably is in all likelihood, whatever process is out there, way beyond even Lawrence Krauss, you have to say to yourself, well, there may be something there that none of us can understand and probably never will be.
That may well be, but
I wouldn't say that we would conclude that none of us can understand, but it's entirely possible that none of us do understand it right now. It's possible that Lawrence Krauss is way off base in his idea about how the universe might have come into existence. The problem comes when you think that when you come up with an answer that you aren't sure about because the evidence isn't there yet, and then you come up with the idea that is the answer. A lot of people like to quote Sherlock Holmes, who said, when you eliminate the impossible, then whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. But that's actually a fairly bad principle to work on, because you can never be certain that you've actually eliminated the impossible. I mean, unless you actually know everything about what you're talking about. And the origin of the universe is one of those things where we don't have a complete picture of it yet, and it's fairly hard to get a complete picture of it at this point. And what theists want to do is shoehorn this thing that they want to believe anyway, and say, a God did it, when really the only answer is, we don't know. We can speculate. One of those speculations might be true, but right now we just don't know.
Sure. I think for my own part, just a very quick point for it. I know you're running out of time very quickly. Just a very quick point. One of the reasons why I don't believe actually God exists, as certainly in Christianity, is that he's held to be a just God and a Heavenly Father. Well, I don't believe any loving Heavenly Father would send any of his children to eternal hell. I don't believe that could happen, because that's a contradiction to me. And secondly, a just God, surely whatever we do in a lifetime, even if you're Hitler or Pol Pot, there must be a limited amount of evil, so-called evil, that you can actually carry out in a lifetime. Well, how does an eternal damnation serve as a just punishment?
Right. At some point, no matter how horrible Hitler was, at some point, any reasonable person would say, okay, he's suffered enough.
That's right. That's right. So if God is just, he would get to that point, and he wouldn't. I don't think and you wouldn't call a judge just who sent a prisoner for eternity, if possible, to prison for somebody done, no matter how bad it was. It just wouldn't be just.
Right, and that's why we say that even if the first cause argument successfully proved that there's got to be something or other out there, you still have a hell of a long way to go to get to the God of Christianity or of Islam or Mormonism, for that matter.
I just want to say I've really enjoyed Joseph.
I personally think that's a much longer journey than where you start for Lawrence Krauss is trying to discuss creation.
All right,
it's a much bigger leap getting from even God's existence.
We're out of time.
Religion's a much
Joseph, we're out of time.
We're out of time, Joseph. I've really enjoyed your call. Please call back some other time when I'm on, and I'll try not to waste. I'll try not to waste time. I'll try not to waste time quibbling with you.